Well, I'm in my armchair and I'm ready to talk a little bit about Marlon Vera versus Dominick Cruz. Great fight. Found myself very entertained there. Um, Number of things to say here about the fight. Like I prefaced, I'm in my armchair, so I'm ready to kind of talk some trash about people that I'll never meet and never have to fight. Um, Obviously, my focus is always on jiu-jitsu. So watching the match wasn't a whole lot to talk about there in some sense because there just wasn't a lot of ground time. Vera had a very short kind of triangle attempt or something like that. I think one of the main takeaways, though, for me watching this fight, as someone who's just a very a JV athlete, approaching the fight game and trying to be a little cerebral about what could I take away, what could I be able to do, and I would honestly say that I don't think anyone could. You could not, in particular, hope to emulate either fighter's game. That is, both fighters are doing things that are almost entirely reliant on genetic predisposition. These aren't game plans that you could just go and train up. Dominick Cruz, the amount of output that he has per round, just his physical output per round, I don't think even most professional athletes don't have that kind of physical output, that they could just keep moving at that pace every round with that kind of speed, darting in and out. That's not something you can train up. He has just a really unusual capacity in terms of energy there. It makes me tired just watching one round of him. He won the fight for 4 rounds. For basically 4 rounds, he was just utterly destroying Vera. He was winning that fight. I know he took some big knocks in there, but he does have a very impressive style. Something that, again, I don't think you could train that to emulate it unless you had a prerequisite capacity to maybe you're already like a triathlon runner and you're pretty good, like a triathlon athlete. I don't know what you call that, but if you're already that good at maintaining that kind of general energy output. I really don't like the word cardio. I think it's an overused word or whatever, but and a misunderstood word. But yeah, if you didn't have that quote cardio, I don't think you could ever hope to just be like, I'm gonna fight like Brandon Vera, Dominick Cruz. I just don't think anybody could just walk out the gate and hope to do that. And then on the flip side, it's the same for Vera. He's also an attribute-driven fighter. His basic game plan here was absorb damage for 4 rounds, look for the timing to land one big shot. Again, without genetic predisposition, I think most people, if they were to go and fight and be like, yeah, I'll be able to eat those shots, they'll probably find out that they can't eat those shots. And I hate to say it just because I know these guys, this type of fighter is exciting, but will Vera be able to maintain that type of style? I don't think so. I think it's exciting. I don't actually hope that he loses or anything like that, but I do think eventually fighters that are a little overly reliant on taking shots to basically set up a big shot, they eventually just get that bell rung a little too hard by one person, and then once that happens, they're just the bell just gets easier to ring at that point. I think Chuck Liddell is a prime example of that. The weird exception to that might be like Nate Diaz, who has had the bell rung, I think, pretty hard, and it doesn't seem to have led to him just tumbling and falling down every time he gets hit. But I think in his real walk around life, I wonder if he seems like it. When he gives interviews, I feel like I can see evidence of having taken a few too many shots to the head I don't know if I have to elaborate on that. I feel like other people would probably just understand where I'm going with that. But yeah, overall, very interesting fight. I think and if there is a little bit of a takeaway of like what could you add into your game, I find the most interesting thing to take away is, especially just thinking in terms of jiu-jitsu, is Dominick Cruz does something really interesting, and I've watched him do this in multiple fights, but he uses takedowns almost like he was doing at first I thought of it as being almost like a jab, because he's like darts in, hits a takedown, and he darts back out. He doesn't actually follow up on it half the time. And it's like, taking people down is really hard, but he makes it look really easy. And I was kind of watching this fight a little more closely for that, and what exactly makes him able to do that. And I realized he goes a lot for, like, I guess I would call it like a low ankle pick. I think it could be, or no, not low ankle pick, a low knee pick. He just kind of picks that knee. He has like a little bit of a counterbalance. He throws a lot of energy into the hip and a lot of energy into the knee, and he's able to just take people down but he doesn't follow up on it most of the time. And it's pretty clear that he uses it as a part of, like, instead of throwing a cross, he suddenly kind of throws a takedown. And that's a really fascinating combination there. Again, I don't really, again, with that speed, I don't know. I don't see I don't see a lot of people, unless they're like a great athlete, being able to emulate that. But I think if you were to frame by frame slow that down and look for, where does he go? Where is his connection strongest and things like that? I think you probably could pick up some interesting insights on doing just it's, in my mind, a bit of an unorthodox takedown, the way he lands it. And I think there's also the reality that MMA fighters are standing in a very different way than a grappler would stand. But yeah, I usually go for knee picks with like an underhook and having a little bit more of like a chest-to-chest connection. He just goes straight to the waist. I mean, it's technically the energy of like a double leg in some sense, but just the way he hits it and the speed with which he hits it is really admirable. That would probably be one of the cooler things you could train up, just slowing down reel by reel and trying to figure out how to emulate that. Although, if it was for me as a jiu-jitsu fighter, I don't think anyone could. I don't think you should be darting in and out. I think you should have the follow-up game to take them down, try to control them, finish them from the ground. Cruz's style is really weird and just kind of hard to figure out. But this is the Armchair. So if you've got other thoughts or feelings on the fight, feel free to get on there and feel free to just express your thoughts, give us some comments and everything. I mean, it was a good fight, nothing particularly controversial to talk about. I don't see longevity from Vera. Just, I think it's cool. It seems like a cool dude, cool fighter. I personally find guys that are a bit like they like to slug and all that. They're exciting to watch, but I always just figure they don't have much of a shelf life, and I don't see a big shelf life from him. Just, I know English isn't his first language, but just the way he talked in the post-fight interview, yeah, I just didn't really see, like, is this a guy who's great? Like, he's just looking for single timing on a strike, and I don't know. You had to wait 4 rounds to do it. I don't know. I think the higher and higher he stays at the top of the food chain there, you just can't have a 4-round, I'm going to finish you after 4 rounds kind of game plan in the UFC. You got to be out of there trying to put guys away faster. But hope you enjoyed this. Have a good one.